Okay, what's up, everybody? I just want to let you guys know how epic this battle is for those that enjoy Star Wars and the lore. And if you don't know either of these characters, or specifically Tulak Hord, who's very obscure, buckle up, grab a coffee at the coffee shop, because that's what this is. And I hope you guys enjoy, because I really get in depth with both characters so you get an idea of what they bring to the table. Real quick, if you love content like this, make sure to hit the like and subscribe. If we get this up to 100 likes, I'll do a breakdown on each character individually in heavy detail so that you get even more info. So, you know, show some love. But also, my main channel is Jobbers and Goons, so if you want to check me out there, that'd be amazing as well. But anyways, this battle came to mind because as a fan of Star Wars, I wanted to put two Jedi Slayers against each other. And Grievous is God tier when it comes to having the reputation of a Jedi Slayer. And someone else who had a God tier reputation for catching bodies was Tulak Hord. So Tulak is obscure, so this took longer than usual for me to put together because I actually went back, read the Old Republic stuff, read the Codex, because I wanted to get this right. And I think I did. So sit back, enjoy. I'm going to break down Tulak Hord first, then Grievous, and then we'll get into who I think wins. Without further ado, let's begin. Now, the reason that Tulak Hord is so fascinating to add to the Star Wars versus battle is because he's so controversial of a character in terms of scaling. The reason for the controversy is he's obscure, and he's obscure on purpose. The writers intended for him to not really be well known because he has this aura and mystique around his legacy that has led to many generations of Sith actually seeking out where he buried his knowledge. So with that in mind, we're going to explain what he supposedly did in his time based on what information we do have that remained after his death. While he is most known for his legendary status as a duelist, Hord was also insanely talented in the mystic arts. Now, it is said that when Tulak adventured into the Force to learn and create new ways in the dark side, he actually was plunging himself into life and death itself and experimenting with the different concepts within the Force. And of course, I think it needs to be emphasized that his holocron and all the information he had is one of the most sought after ever. This would include Nihilus, Revan, Bane, Vitiate, Malik, all these characters, right? Hord's up there with all of them in terms of how necessary his teachings were seen in terms of the Force. But in terms of physically what he brought to the table, we should be able to estimate that he's one of the he's a very imposing duelist, given that he literally would lead contingencies into battle against armies consisting entirely of Jedi, right? So he has the stamina to engage in army-on-army combat with other Jedi and slaughter them. There's not much to be explained in terms of like how physically crazy he was, but just the fact that he could engage in these long wars against Force users demonstrates he has a crazy amount of stamina. Strength, obviously, the fact that he was casually cutting down Sith and Jedi alike at the time was very respectable, and I think it's best summed up by Kreia. Kreia said, quote, "This was the tomb of Tulak Hord, known as the greatest lightsaber duelist of the Sith Lords. His skill was considered remarkable even in his time, when many true lightsaber masters lived. If you were to face an ancient Sith in combat, you would learn that we are as children, playing with toys compared to the prowess of the old masters." This is important because she's referring to an era where they look like children that consists of characters like Revan, Malik, real badass duelists, right? And she said, no, the masters of the time of Tulak Hord made us look like children in comparison with their dueling skill, and Tulak was supreme among them all. By the way, don't question the inside of Kreia, because it was actually confirmed by workers of the game and the lore that Kreia sets the stage with her lore, and that because of what she's read and her status narratively, her predictions are pretty accurate because they're the building blocks for the story. So what she's saying is supposed to be taken as true, like accurate. Like Tulak Hord really was that gifted of a lightsaber duelist. On Yin, the planet, the Jedi had laid siege to an Imperial stronghold. It was explained that Tulak Hord broke this siege by himself. And it was stated he pressed forward from the siege and left nothing but Jedi blood in his wake. And it was insane because, like, he was basically draining them. Him and Kim Vol, very powerful Sith Lord that was serving him, would drain them as they go. And he stated, like, Tulak was killing Jedi all the time to the point that he never ran out of power to consume. Finally, I want to, one of the last things I want to touch up on with Tulak Hord before we wrap up his section is that he actually took place in a Kagath, right? And a Kagath is very rare in Star Wars, but essentially it's a Sith ritual in which sometimes it's so powerful and so crazy, it'll encompass entire star systems, right? This is a ritual that takes place between two Sith Lords, with the winner declaring this wild-ass punishment for the other combatant, right? He battled another Sith Lord in a Kagath beyond the stars and beyond light itself, it was stated, right? He won. Of course Tulak Hord won. He's a badass. When he did, existence in history erased the guy he battled. This was some ancient Sith Lord, and he said, since you lost, bitch, your name will be erased from history, and he stated that he and the Kagath had the power to do so. So, it's a wild-ass occurrence that happened with Tulak and just showed how crazy he used to get back in the day. But, to kind of wrap up this section, how strong was he and stuff? You know, we know he was a classically trained duelist. He practiced all 7 of the forms, and he's considered the greatest duelist of his era, in which they had very advanced masters of dueling. In terms of the Force, it's not too much is shown. We do know he dealt with some forms of immortality, as his spirit was able to throw back either Darth Nox or the hero Typhon, depending on the story angle, which is very impressive because Nox is like Malgus plus tier threat. And we know the hero easily can scale to Malgus and above. So this is very impressive. And we know at one point he pulled down a ship with telekinesis in battle that was like 9 times the size of a football field. So he's very impressive in normal practices of the Force with very advanced telekinesis. The rest of the stuff is kind of ritual based, so it's kind of questionable how much applies to random combat. But overall, Tulak Hord is rightfully considered one of the GOATs for Sith Lords because of his prowess, not only as a duelist, but what he did in his time with the Force. But getting Tulak's section out of the way, let's pan over to General Grievous. In my opinion, Grievous is probably one of the most hated on in terms of scaling for Star Wars because his canon version and like his movie portrayal was trash. Some of his showings in canon Clone Wars was sorry. So yeah, I can see why people hate on him, but I'm here to correct the record and hopefully give a pretty good depiction of what Legends Grievous brought to the table. And like I said, if you get this video to 100 likes, I'll do an individual breakdown of each character's in depth. Now, Grievous, previously, before becoming a Sith general, was actually a Kaleesh warlord and had hundreds, if not thousands, of bodies to his name already. It was considered an elite swordsman and duelist. So even before training in the technical arts of the Jedi and Sith lightsaber dueling, he was well versed in combat and melee combat with swords. After a brutal injury due to battles that took place with his people, he was saved by Dooku, and what we of course know from a narrative standpoint was a planned attack in order to produce hate against the Republic. And the Kaleesh general was brought aboard, healed, and brought back as the soon-to-be famed Jedi killer, General Grievous. Now, fun fact, not a lot of people know this. I get a lot of requests for, like, what if General Grievous was Force sensitive? It's actually conjectured that potentially he was, given that a Jedi Master's midichlorian-riddled blood was used to sustain and bring back Grievous after the horrific incidents in the battle. So he was, like, using Force-sensitive blood to be resurrected. You could argue there's potentially a tie, and that's why he's so powerful. But regardless, his new build when he came back turned him into a cybernetic freak of a killer, with his limbs and armor able to withstand Star Cannon Blaster and casually deflect lightsabers, unless, of course, you hit the joints and whatnot. His cybernetic brain massively enhanced his previously military strategist brain. So he was already elite as a tactician, and this was massively enhanced by cybernetics, as was everything else for him. His speed, strength, durability. All this was replaced and made better. Grievous, before even learning how to duel or taking up lightsabers, was actually unleashed in a secret mission upon Jedi and killed multiple Jedi with just his claws and brute strength. You see, Grievous literally has one-shot Jedi before with physical strikes, stomps, landing on them, breaking their necks casually. I mean, if he gets his hands on you, unless you're massively amped or you're something extremely superhuman, you're probably going to die off the first couple strikes. We also know, of course, Grievous has multiple limbs, allowing him to use up to 4 lightsabers at a time. And after his initial massacre of Jedi and hundreds of clone troopers, eventually he would pick up learning lightsaber styles. In particular, he's most noted for training under the legendary duelist himself, Count Dooku, in which Count Dooku taught Grievous all of the 7 classic forms of lightsaber combat. And he didn't teach him everything, as Dooku admitted to himself, I believe it was in Labyrinth of Evil, that he kept some tricks to himself in case Grievous ever got overpowered. But regardless, Grievous knew the basics of all 7 forms. He knows all the styles he's gone against, which is literally hundreds of Jedi. So he's seen these styles in use, as well as his cybernetics and his computer-enhanced brain allow him to take these forms to extreme levels, add new, random, and unique movements to these forms, and even copy moves that he sees. Best example of this is his legendary fight in Legends against Mace Windu. This was very impressive because, as you know, Mace Windu is one of the best duelists to ever exist. Actually bested Sidious in a duel, was known for going toe-to-toe with Dooku and Yoda in sparring. And he was incredibly dangerous. He battled Grievous on top of a moving, I think it was a train. And obviously, this was unique conditions. They're moving, they're on a vehicle. But regardless, it was kind of implied Mace had a little bit of an edge as he was using the Force to move around. And Grievous was kind of having to magnetically hold himself down while dueling. And during this duel, Grievous had not seen Vapad before, which is a style Mace created and uses, a variant of Form 7. And during this duel, Grievous started learning and trying to copy Vapad. And at that point, Mace was like, oh shit, I don't want this boy running around with Vapad. Let me break off this duel. Because he didn't want to risk Grievous getting away and using Vapad on other Jedi. That's a lot of blood on Mace's hands. So this led to Grievous's famous cough, as he did get injured from Mace using the Force on him, and his heart was hurt. But regardless, this just shows how dangerous Grievous was. It was stated Kenobi was one of the few Jedi that existed that could actually stand a chance against Grievous. Grievous was stated when he's fully going that he's faster than any Jedi ever. And this is crazy because if you read the Revenge of the Sith novel, you'll see Grievous a lot of times was as much as 5 times suppressed. That is, against Kenobi, he started off going like at 20% speed, 15-20% speed, which nearly overwhelmed Kenobi, in which Kenobi just at that point had to flow through the Force. So yeah, his like 20% is above the Jedi Masters of his time. And then 100% is nearly impossible to beat. You almost need plot to beat Grievous at that point. But yeah, overall, Grievous is one of the scariest Jedi killers of his time. one of the best hunters of his era, and overall one of the scariest duelists we've ever seen in Star Wars. So, if these two legends of their era, these two famous killers of Jedi were to clash, who do I favor? Now, obviously, with the Force, Tulak has the edge. Grievous isn't using the Force, but I will say it's literally been shown Grievous has dodged multiple times Force attacks from Force users, so he's not worried about that shit. And the telekinesis, I will admit, from Tulak Hord is enough to throw around Grievous. Like, pulling down a ship 9 times the size of a football field is crazy, and he would be able to throw around Grievous if he does hit him with TK, but that's about the only Force ability I really see going well against Grievous that doesn't require prep before. In terms of dueling, I actually think it's a close battle, given that he's supposed to make like Malik, in terms of Tulak Hord, make like Malik and Revan look like children as duelists. Definitely puts him in contention with Grievous as a duelist. However, Grievous has seen characters like Tulak before, really powerful Sith that are expert technical duelists like Dooku, but Tulak's never seen something like Grievous. I think in this battle, Grievous is going to evade the TK, might get thrown once or twice, but he's going to close the distance and engage Tulak in battle. And when I said Tulak hasn't seen something like Grievous, I'm referring to a cybernetic freak, faster than every Jedi, stated up to the point of Grievous time, like he was supposed to be faster than them. Is also a forward advancing fighter. That is, he's going to be trying to bring the fight towards Grievous. Grievous is going to analyze his style, be returning with his unorthodox, weird cybernetic attacks, and overall, I think 20% Grievous might lose to Tulak, but definitely at 100%, Grievous, I believe, takes this in a close one, 6 to 7 times out of 10. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. If I do individual videos on both characters, who do you want me to see fully cover first? I'm talking about 10 to 20 minute individual video on them showing all my skins and stuff. Is it Grievous or Tulak? Who do you want to see more? But anyways, thank you so much for watching. It's been your boy Jobbers and Goons. This is The Coffee Shop, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.